are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, November 13th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast that you want to see me acknowledge. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. Also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Bears firing Offensive Coordinator Shane Waldron and the reasoning behind that. Talk about the Bears and their recent loss to the Patriots. Then we'll talk about the Bills and their win over the Colts. They improved to 8-2 on the season. We'll get into discussing the Chargers as they pick up another win against the Tennessee Titans. And then the final two segments, fourth part of the show, we'll talk about the NFL playoff picture. I know I've talked about the standings a little bit here or there in certain spots, but now I want to kind of take a deep dive into where everything sits currently. And then in the final part of the show, I will do my power rankings by ranking the top 5 teams after Week 10. Actually, and the other thing too is the first playoff ranking dropped for college football, so I'll also talk about that in the NFL playoff picture segment as well, because the first ranking was released last night, so we'll get into that. But yeah, that's the rundown for the show. Let's get into the first topic now, which is talking about Shane Waldron. And yeah, and as you can see, once again, I switch over to the graphic, and his image appears over the tip graphic. But yeah, so the Bears, they had to make a change. And I think more changes will be coming when we get to the end of the season, because I don't think Matt Eberflus is going to make it past this year. But the Bears' offense has been struggling, and they lose to the Patriots on Sunday. They only put up 3 points. They haven't scored an offensive touchdown in a couple of weeks now. And like I said, they're still in it. I mean, they could still salvage the season. The problem is the schedule is brutal down the stretch. But yeah, you go back to the last time they scored a touchdown, that was on October 27th. That was against the Commanders, and that was the touchdown by DeAndre Swift. Other than that, there was a bunch of field goals that they have had to settle for over these past, couple of weeks. They lose 29-9 to the Cardinals, and now you lose 19-3 to the Patriots. And this is coming off of, I know it's the Jaguars, but they went into the bye week. They put up 35 points against the Jaguars, and Caleb Williams played well. He had 4 touchdown passes in that game, and you thought, okay, you can go into the bye week and then, really work on some things, and then come out and, you'll look even better out of the bye week. But, they lose that heartbreaker to the Commanders. I mean, they really should have won that game if not for the Hail Mary. And then the Cardinals ran all over them, and then the Patriots, they only put up 19 points, but the Bears only put up 3. And the other thing, too, is that I just thought about is Caleb Williams lost to the number 2 overall pick in Jaden Daniels, and now most recently the number 3 overall pick in Drake May. Now, again, not going to make a big deal out of that, but just saying it's interesting that happened. So, but the Bears' offense has struggled, and they ended up letting Waldron go, and now they promoted Thomas Brown, who is the passing game coordinator. He will now be the offensive coordinator for at least the remainder of the season. He was also a candidate during the Bears hiring process in January. He has past experience as an offensive coordinator for the 2023 Panthers, working with rookie quarterback Bryce Young. And Bryce Young was not great last year. So, but the other thing that was interesting too is the Bears had considered several other candidates, which included Cliff Kingsbury, who is the offensive coordinator of the Commanders, Zach Robinson of the Falcons, and Liam Cohen of the Buccaneers. And you see how those offenses have looked compared to the Bears, and you kind of wonder why the Bears didn't maybe bring one of those guys in instead. Right now, when you look at the Bears' offense, Caleb Williams ranks low in major QB stats during the team's 3-game losing streak, including last place in passing touchdowns and yards per play. Some of the issues, obviously, I mean, the offensive line has gotten better, but that was a problem. But he also is holding on to the ball too long. I've noticed that on some plays, and that's what's been touched upon, leading to high sack rates. But he's also just not on the same page with his playmakers. And that was one of the reasons why I thought the Bears were going to be a competitive team this year. With Caleb Williams coming in his rookie season, is because of the playmakers that he has around him. You know, and it seems like he's just, at times he's been on the same page with DJ Moore, but lately that just hasn't been the case. You know, you have Keenan Allen there, you got Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. They have found success in running the football in recent weeks with DeAndre Swift, but yeah, it's been tough sledding for this Bears offense. And right now, with Thomas Brown being promoted, the offense for the Bears right now ranks at the bottom of the league in points, third down conversion rate, and touchdowns. And it's just, they're looking to get a spark. And we'll see what ends up happening. But ultimately, with the stretch that the Bears are going to go through, I think it's going to be really tough for them. And I think they're probably going to end up finishing with a losing record. I think I gave them 9 wins. I didn't have them making the playoffs, but I had them at 9 wins. I don't know if that's going to happen just because you're playing everybody in your division, and then you got a couple of NFC West teams in there. So it's going to be really tough. Now, I don't think they're going to lose every single game. I think they will find a way to win a couple. But in all likelihood, this team will finish with a losing record, and I think it's going to lead to not just the offensive coordinator being let go, but also the head coach. And that was my biggest concern coming into the year, was the head coach. Now, the Bears did finish strong last year, but coming into this season, they hit the reset button. They didn't bring back Justin Fields. I wonder what would have happened if Fields would have stayed. Would the Bears have had a better record at this point? I think Fields getting traded to the Steelers was the best thing that could have happened to him. I know Russell Wilson stepped in and now is the starter, and that was the Steelers' plan all along, but I think this was good for Justin Fields to be traded to a team that, is a well-run organization. And now, he did well to, when he filled in for Russell Wilson. Now he could just sit behind Russ. And I think, he's going to get another shot, whether it's with the Steelers or it's with another team. So I think getting traded from the Bears was a good thing for him. But the Bears, I don't know what's going to happen. I think, like I said, I think Eberflus is probably gone after this year. So I think what they have to do is they got to bring in an offensive-minded head coach. And the defense is in good shape. They have a good defense. It's just the offense is struggling right now. And it's really tough to see considering who they have at their disposal on that side of the ball. But let's kind of go through the loss to the Patriots, because I will say, he hasn't been spectacular, but he has shown flashes, and I do think that when talking about, and I'm talking about Drake May, I said it, I've been saying it, I think maybe the Patriots found their guy. Maybe. But it's still early. But if they continue to surround him with more talent, then, we'll be able to see what he could really do. But Patriots win over the Bears 19-3. He did only have 184 yards passing. Drake May, he went 15-25. He had a touchdown and a pick. They ran the ball to Patriots for 144 yards. Ramondre Stevenson had 74 yards on the ground. Austin Hooper actually was their leading receiver. He had 64 yards on the ground. The Patriots defense had 9 sacks in this game. So when we talk about the offensive line and how Caleb Williams holds on to the ball too long, it's going to lead to that. And the Bears defense actually only got 1 sack off of Drake May. So, you expect more from that, especially the Patriots offensive line. We talk about offensive lines. The Patriots offensive line is not very good. But yeah, not Roma Dunze, but Caleb Williams went 16-30 for 120 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. DeAndre Swift only 59 yards on the ground. Keenan Allen was their leading receiver. He had 5 receptions for 44 yards. DJ Moore had 3 for 24. Roma Dunze had 3 for 23. Cole Kmet, 2 for 13. And yeah, the Bears are 4-5, and like I said, now they get to the brutal part of their schedule. They play the Packers this week, then you got the Vikings, then you got the Lions, the Niners, the Vikings again, the Lions, the Seahawks, and then you're at the Packers to end off the season. It's not a lot of wins in there. But you know what? Maybe they turn it around. With this change with the offensive coordinator, maybe the offense finally starts to click. So, but I know we see on social media all the time when Caleb Williams messaged the punter before the season and said, "You're not going to punt that much here." And it's kind of been happening a lot in recent weeks. And also, there was a quote by Kevin Byard, one of the safeties for the Bears, and when he was asked about the coaching staff and whether he believed in it or not, he said, "Not going to go there." So that's a problem. And the Bears have gone 23 consecutive possessions without scoring a touchdown. Their 277.7 yards per game ranks as the 3rd worst in the NFL. And I apologize, that's my dog slamming against my door, laying right by my door, if you heard that. But, it's not looking good right now for the Bears. But we'll see if this change leads to anything. Maybe it does. There's still a lot of season left. They're not out of anything by any means. They can go on a run, but they're at the tough part of their schedule. They're playing everybody in the NFC North, which is the best division in football this year. So, and then you got a couple of NFC West teams, like I said, in the Niners and the Seahawks, who are still in it. And the Niners are a team that's going to go on a run with everybody back. So, but let me know what you guys think about this decision by the Bears. Where do you think they go from here? Do you think that this move will lead to anything? Will lead to some success? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about the Bills and their win over the Colts as they improved to 8-2 on the season. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast and for the second part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Bills and their win over the Colts, 30-20. Now, it was really 30-13. I think the Colts, they scored a touchdown at the very end of the game. But, yeah, they pretty much dominated the Colts in this game. I know the Colts, they made the change from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco, and it really hasn't led to any better results. The Colts have now lost 2 in a row since making that switch, and Flacco turned the ball over in this game. Right off the bat, the Colts' first play on their first drive, it ends up being a pick six. So the Bills got the ball to start the game, and then, like I said, Flacco threw a pick. Then the Colts get it back, and he threw yet another interception. This was at the Bills' 37-yard line. On the day, he finished with 3 interceptions. So that's not good. And it makes you wonder at some point, well, could they go back to Anthony Richardson? We'll see. But for now, it's still going to be Joe Flacco. So, yeah, 2 interceptions on their first 2 possessions. Then the Bills got the ball once again. They went 9 plays, 42 yards. And that led to a 29-yard field goal by Tyler Bass. Then the Colts on their drive, you had a 58-yard run by Jonathan Taylor. The last time that they played each other, I think he had, 5 or 6 touchdowns in that game? Or it might have been 5. And that was in Buffalo a couple of years ago. That was with Carson Wentz at quarterback. But he did not have that here. I think he still had a good game, though. Yeah, he had over 100 yards rushing, but did not have 5 touchdowns in that game. And then the Bills got the ball, and they turned it over on downs, which led to a Colts touchdown. They went 11 plays, 72 yards. And Flacco connected with Goodson for a 2-yard touchdown. And then Josh Allen threw a pick. That led to a Colts field goal. So the Colts actually were winning this game at one point, 13-10. But then the Bills, they ended up scoring 20 unanswered points. The Bills on their next drive went down the field, and that led to a Josh Allen rushing touchdown. So that made it 17-13. Then the Colts punted, and that led to the Bills on their next drive kicking a field goal. 3rd and 10. At the Bills' 27, Josh Allen just heaves up a 44-yard pass to Matt Collins, and that's what set them up. The Colts could have got off the field, but Josh Allen made a great play there. Then in the third quarter, both teams exchanged punts. Then the Colts fumbled, and then Josh Allen threw a pick, trying to hit Curtis Samuel. He got intercepted by Kenny Moore. And then the Colts, they turned it over on downs. They went for it on 4th and 2 from the Bills' 20, and Flacco ended up getting sacked. And then the Bills kicked another field goal on their drive. They went 13 plays, 16 yards, and that led to a Tyler Bass field goal. Then you had another Flacco interception, which led to a Bills touchdown. They went 13 plays, 84 yards, and that led to a James Cook touchdown from 2 yards out. He had a big run in this game where it looked like he was going to get tackled down, but he was able to avoid that and pick up a big gain. So, yeah, it was 30-13, and then the Colts ended up scoring a touchdown at the very end with about 2 seconds left. Touchdown to Alec Pierce. So that made it 30-20, and then the Bills ended up getting the ball, and that was it. They went 30-20. And the Colts dropped to 4-6. Bills improved to 8-2 on the season. Flacco went 26-35, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries for 114 yards. Alec Pierce, 4 for 81 in the touchdown. Josh Downs, 7 for 72. Adonai Mitchell, 6 for 71. Colts defense, a couple of sacks in this game, and a couple of interceptions. You had Kenny Moore with the pick, and you also had E.J. Speed as well. And then as for Josh Allen, he had no touchdown passes in this game, but he had 2 picks, 280 yards passing, 80 yards on the ground by James Cook, and a touchdown. Josh Allen also had 50 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Matt Collins was actually their leading receiver. There was no Amari Cooper in this game. Hopefully they get him back this week when they take on the Chiefs. Matt Collins had 4 for 86. Khalil Shakir, 6 for 58. Bills defense had 4 sacks. And, yeah, we look to Sunday, and like I said, they take on the Chiefs, which really looking forward to that game because that's a game that I think the Chiefs can lose, but we'll see if they will. But, I mean, nothing really earth-shattering that happened in this game, but for the Colts, I mean, they continue to lose games. You know, I think they thought that putting Flacco in, that was going to lead to them, experiencing what the Browns experienced last year with him, and so far that has not been the case. Now, there's still plenty of season left, and the Colts can still turn it around, but it doesn't look good right now for them. They have now lost 3 straight. Going back to when they lost to the Texans on the 27th. They lose by 8 to the Vikings, and Flacco struggled, and, he struggled in this game as well. He didn't throw for over 200 yards in the game against the Vikings. He passed for 179 yards. He had an interception, and then, he has 3 picks here, one on the very first play. So, it has not been good. It has not been good, but they do take on the Jets this week, so that could be a win. And then they take on the Lions the week after that, which is at home. But they actually do have some They do have a decent amount of winnable games coming up on the schedule. They do have the Jets. They have the Patriots, which I don't think is going to be as easy as maybe some would originally have thought because, I think the Patriots are playing better with Drake May. But the Colts are a better team, so I would think they win that. They do take on the Broncos and the Lions. They take on the Lions in Week 12, and Week 15 they take on the Broncos in Denver. So those are going to be tough. But then you take on the Titans, the Giants, and the Jaguars. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I did have the Colts finishing 9-8. That's still possible, but right now things aren't looking good there. But the Bills, I mean, they continue to roll. But there are people that still have their doubts with this team, and I understand that because you look at who they've beaten on this 5-game winning streak. They took on the Jets. They barely beat them, won by a field goal. They beat the Titans. They beat the Seahawks in Seattle, which was tough. But, again, the Bills are the better team. They beat the Dolphins at home, and they beat the Colts. The teams that they've lost to, the Ravens and the Texans, those teams are playoff teams. Right now, you're looking at all the teams that they've beaten on this 5-game winning streak. None of those teams are going to be in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. And then you go back to before that, they beat the Dolphins at the beginning of the year. They did beat the Cardinals. Cardinals are a first-place team, but the Bills are better. And they destroyed the Jaguars. So, this is going to be, like I said, and like I've been saying, the games that they got coming up on their schedule are really going to show me what the Bills are. Because you got the Chiefs, then you got the Niners out of the bye week, the Rams, and the Lions in Detroit. So, we'll see. I definitely do think that the Bills can win on Sunday against the Chiefs. Josh Allen has owned Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. I want to make that clear. The regular season, he does good against Patrick Mahomes. And the playoffs, look, the shootout that they had in the 2021-2022 playoffs, Josh Allen played really well. I think he played good enough last year where they could have won. But, the postseason is different. Patrick Mahomes has owned Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes is undefeated against Josh Allen in the playoffs. So, we'll see what happens with that game. But, look, the Bills are doing what they're supposed to do. They're beating the teams on their schedule, and they're going to have this division pretty much locked up. I know the Dolphins picked up a win, but, they got swept by the Bills this season. And, it's the Bills would have to go on a monumental collapse for, the Dolphins to even have a chance. And I think the Dolphins maybe, they could get themselves back into it, but like I said earlier this week, it's going to be an uphill battle for them. So, but the Bills, they are going to be once again AFC East champs, most likely. So they continue to roll. The Colts, they're struggling right now. But like I said, they do have the Jets coming up, so they could definitely win that. But we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments before we go to break. I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. make sure to go to the super chat button in the chat and create, a super chat of any thought or comment you want to see me acknowledge throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So we will talk about the Bills a little bit later in the show, once again, when we go over the playoff picture, because right now they're leading their division. So when we come back from our next break, we will discuss the Chargers, another team that's looking good right now. They continue to win. Got to keep an eye on them. This was one of the teams that I thought was, kind of underrated going into the year. That could be a sneaky good team because of, the changes that they made, bringing in Jim Harbaugh. So we'll talk about their win over the Titans. They're 6-3 now, and just kind of, a little bit of repetition from last week. Just talk about how dangerous this team can be, if they're in the playoffs. Just talk about that, and obviously get into the specifics of the game as well. We'll touch upon it all when we come back. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Chargers as they pick up yet another win and improve to 6-3 on the season with a win over the Titans. And they won 27-17. And like I said, they're 6-3. And they're looking good right now. They are a team that I think, gets that one of those wild card spots at the moment. Now, they do have some tough games coming up on the schedule. We will see them on Sunday Night Football against the Bengals, which I think could be a high-scoring game. Then they got the Ravens after that. They got back-to-back primetime games. 3 of their next 4 games are in primetime. You got the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Then you got the Ravens on Monday Night Football the following week, the Har Bowl. And then you got the Falcons, but that's an early game. But then after that, Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs in Week 14. So, yeah, and then, you have, like I said, you got the Falcons, you got the Buccaneers with Mike Evans coming back, which is going to be tough. That'll be at home. And then you got the Broncos at home as well, who are playing better. So there are tough games on the schedule, and I think this team is up for the challenge. Like I said, they ended up winning against the Titans 27-17, and we'll kind of go through it. So the Chargers got the ball to start off the game. They went 12 plays, 68 yards, and that led to a Dicker field goal. So that made it 3-0. And then actually a little bit of a surprise, but, the Titans actually, scored a touchdown on their first drive of the year. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know what I just said there. First touchdown drive of the year. First touchdown drive of the game, I meant to say. They went 7 plays, 72 yards. And Will Levis connected with Calvin Ridley for a 41-yard touchdown. Will Levis actually did make some plays in this game. And, he He was running. He was using his legs as well. So, maybe the layoff for him helped. I don't know. We'll see. But that put them up 7-3. Then a couple of punts, and then the Chargers kicked another field goal, another Cameron Dicker field goal, a 37-yarder. Then the Titans missed a field goal. They went 9 plays, 90 yards. They got all the way down to the Chargers' 31-yard line, and Nick Folk missed the field goal. And then that led to a Chargers touchdown. You had Herbert connecting with Joshua Palmer for a 36-yard gain, and later in the drive, Herbert on 4th and 1 scored a rushing touchdown. So yeah, that made it 13-7. The Titans then punted on their next drive. Nobody scored after that in the first half. Then the Titans, they opened up the second half with a field goal drive, 11 plays, 62 yards, and that led to a Nick Folk field goal, 27-yarder. But then the Chargers answered. They went 7 plays, 43 yards, and that led to a Justin Herbert to Quinn Johnston touchdown. This was for 16 yards. So Quinn Johnston continues to produce in his sophomore season. The Titans then punted, and that led to another Chargers drive. He had a 37-yard reception by Ladd McConkey on the drive, and later Haskins from 1 yard out scored. More punts in this game, and then the Titans did end up scoring another touchdown. Will Levis connected with Calvin Ridley for a 15-yard touchdown, and that was it. Levis on the day finished 18-23, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, was sacked 7 times. 47 yards on the ground by Tajay Spears, 44 yards on the ground by Pollard. You had 41 yards on the ground for Will Levis. Calvin Ridley had a good game, 5 receptions for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. Westbrook Akine had 3 for 31. Will Levis did fumble, but he didn't lose it. Titans defense, no sacks in this game of Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert's getting good protection, which is, something that they wanted to do. I mean, you go and you draft Joe Alt, and then, you still got Rashawn Slater, of course. And this team loves to run the football. They ran the ball for 145 yards in this game. 55 yards by Gus Edwards, who came back. He was on IR. He came back. J.K. Dobbins, 50 yards on the ground. Herbert had 32. And then you had Hassan Haskins scoring from 1 yard out for a touchdown. But he only had 4 yards on the ground. Ladd McConkey, 2 receptions for 52 yards. Joshua Palmer, 1 for 36. Will Dissly had 5 for 30. Quinn Johnston, 2 for 24 and a touchdown. And like I said, 7 sacks on the day by the Chargers defense. The defense continues to play well. So, yeah, they're 6-3, and they're sitting in a good spot right now. Now, again, they got a tough part of their schedule, but like I said last week, this team plays really good defense. They run the football, and Justin Herbert, has started to air it out a little bit more in this offense. So, I really like what's going on with the Chargers right now. They're going to be a dangerous team if they make the playoffs. Anthony Manzano in the chat, it's good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you in a while. He said, "Do you think it would benefit these assistant coaches or position coaches to be an OC or DC in college before becoming a head coach or coordinator in the NFL?" I mean, you're getting experience, so I guess the short answer, it's just more experience. And then also, like, the other thing too, that's how, look at, like, the Shanahan, McVay coaching tree. I mean, all those guys, were on one staff. You had them two, you had LaFleur, you had Mike McDaniel. They were all on one staff, in the NFL. And now, they're all head coaches. So, it's all experience. So, yeah, I don't think it hurts. So that would basically be my answer to that, if that makes sense. But back to the Chargers, though. You look at some of these teams that they're going to be going up against. Look, they only lost to the Chiefs by 7 points earlier in the year. They definitely could have won that game, and they're going to get another crack at them later this season. I'm curious to see how they will do against the Ravens. Now, the Ravens have a very good offense. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL. However, their pass defense is not good. Their run defense is good, and the Chargers like to run the ball, but you got Justin Herbert, who's airing it out a little bit more, like I said. So I'm curious to see how that game is going to go. I think they match up well with anybody. I think they could beat anybody, honestly. I guess you could look at maybe like the limitations because, I think the weapons that they have that Herbert's been throwing to, Quinn Johnson's been good. Ladd McConkey's been good. Palmer, he's had for a few years now. I don't think any of those guys necessarily scare you, but I think those guys can produce in big spots. If they're going to have to. They're going to have to get in shootouts with some of these teams, though. I think that's where I worry. But I think that they could be up for the challenge because, you got the quarterback and you got the head coach. Jim Harbaugh is already doing wonders with the Chargers right now. And you could tell that Justin Herbert, is happy. And I think we're all happy to see that because, Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. And it's just when he first came into the league, Anthony Lynn was his first head coach. And Lynn had some success, of course, as a head coach. But, that didn't really work out. And then we all know what happened with Brandon Staley. It got off to a good start, but then ended terribly. So, Anthony in the chat is also saying, what is happening with Mike McDaniel? He's learning on the job because he didn't have experience being a coordinator, and he's making mistakes that are rookie head coach mistakes. A rookie head coach should be making as a year 3 coach. I'm not really following what I kind of understand what you're saying. I'm just the way it's worded is confusing me a little bit. But yeah, again, for some people, Mike McDaniel is a first-time head coach. Well, now he's more along into his tenure there. But yeah, obviously, if you have no head coaching experience, you got to get head coaching experience, at some point. So, obviously, Sean McVay became a head coach, and everyone's like, why are the Rams hiring this guy? And look at how successful he's been, and it is interesting. But, yeah, Mike McDaniel, I know some people have kind of complained about him just, with how the Dolphins have looked this year. But they have looked better with Tua being back, so I think that was part of the problem. But, yeah, I haven't really, paid very close attention to Dolphins games where, I'm saying, man, that was an odd choice or things like that. But, we'll see. But they do look a lot better with Tua being back. So, but they got, like I've been saying, they have an uphill battle with what their record's at. But the Chargers are a team 6-3. I think I had them at 9-8. I think they're going to get more wins. I think you're going to see them get maybe 10, 11 wins maybe. But again, I'm curious to see if they play the Ravens and they got to, put up points and keep up with them, they're going to be able to do that. And I think they can. But that's the one thing I'd be a little bit concerned about. The Bengals are a team that puts up a lot of points, but their defense is not very good. So I think that game could be a shootout, but I think the Chargers will be able to handle it because they're the better team. I think the Chargers are a better overall team than the Bengals. Maybe I'd lean more towards saying that the Bengals have a better offense, but the Chargers play a different style. The Bengals are not a team that runs the football effectively. Chase Brown has done a nice job, but he's more of a receiving back. But again, he's a good player. He's been a good player for them. And, of course, they have Jamar Chase, and we'll see if they get T. Higgins back. But, the Chargers like to run the football. And, they're going to do that against the Bengals on Sunday. And if they're going to have to air it out and keep up with Joe Burrow in that offense, then they're going to try to beat you that way as well. But they play good defense. And that's the one thing that I look at and say, that's the magic of Harbaugh, is how he turned around that defense, because that defense was not good last year. So, Chargers continue to roll, though, and they are going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs, because I think that's where they're headed right now. But let me know what you guys think about the game. Let me know what you guys think about the Chargers. What are your takeaways from it? How far do you think the Chargers could go if they make the playoffs? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we'll talk about the playoff picture, where everything currently stands at the moment. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to now take a look at the NFL playoff picture, where everything currently stands at the moment. So we'll start off with the AFC. So right now, you got the Chiefs at 9-0. They would be the 1 seed. The Bills are the 2 seed right now. They're at 8-2. The Steelers are the 3. They're at 7-2. The Texans are 6-4. They would be the 4. Got the Ravens as the 5th seed, the first wild card. They're at 7-3. Chargers 6-3. They're the 6th seed. And then you got the Broncos at 5-5. They are the 7th seed. And then behind them, on the outside looking in, a couple of teams 2.5 games back. You got the Bengals and the Colts both at 4-6. The Dolphins are 3-6. You got the Jets and the Patriots at 3-7. And then you got 2-7 teams, 2-8. But this is where we're at with the AFC. Now, can anyone catch the Chiefs and overtake them as the 1 seed? Unfortunately, I am going to say, for some people, I'm going to say no. I do think that the Chiefs will eventually lose. It could be this Sunday. It could be when they take on the Texans in Week 16. It could be they take on the Chargers maybe, or the Steelers on Christmas. Or maybe Week 18 at the Broncos. Broncos put up a good fight against them. They were up by 11, and then they got shut out in the second half. But I still don't think that anybody's going to pass the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs got the 1 seed. Now, I think the 2 and the 3 is interesting because I still think the Ravens will win the AFC North. And I continue... I haven't really disrespected the Steelers. But I still lean, right now, I would still lean towards taking the Ravens to win that division. Now, we got a big game. This is a huge game on Sunday. You got the Ravens and the Steelers playing against each other for the first time this year, and it's a battle for first place. So, let's say the Ravens win and the Bills lose, then the Ravens are the 2. They go from being the 5 to the 2. All they have to do is win and the Bills lose, which... that is a likely outcome. So the 2 and the 3 is not set yet in the AFC. I think the Chiefs will get the 1, but then 2 and 3, I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. Because the Ravens, if you remember, of course, they beat the Bills early on. I did bring that up earlier in the show. So they would have the head-to-head matchup. And then I think whoever wins the AFC South, which is probably going to be the Texans, they're going to be locked in to the 4. They're at 6-4. So the Colts, they keep losing, and then the Titans and the Jaguars, they're out of it. So then the wild card teams are going to be interesting. So you're going to get the Steelers and the Ravens in the playoffs. Both those teams are making it, barring collapses, but you got them. The Chargers look like they are going to get that other wild card spot, at least the second wild card spot at the moment. The third wild card spot is interesting. Right now, the Broncos, they got to hold on it at 5-5. You got the Colts right behind them. And then you got the Bengals behind them. The Bengals, look, it's just, they continue to put up a lot of points, but their defense, I think, is, what's going to hold them back from making a run here. I think the Bengals will win more games, of course, but is it going to be enough? The Broncos right now, look, are they a team that really excites you? Maybe not necessarily, but they are a good team. They play good defense. Bo Nix is playing well. They lost a tough game, a game they probably should have won against the Chiefs, if not for a blocked field goal. So, that was tough. But right now, the Dolphins are a team that could make a run. If they didn't lose those first two games with Tua being back, they'd be in such a good spot right now. And I would definitely say, yes, this is a team that can make the playoffs. And I had them making the playoffs this year. But I think I had them making it. Yeah, because I had the Bengals. I had the Steelers missing it. I had the Bengals in. I had the Bills and the Dolphins. Those are my wild card teams. So the Dolphins could be that wild card team that makes it. And then if that ends up happening, I'm hoping for, with my predictions to be correct. I'd want the Bengals and the Dolphins to make it. And then the only team that I picked that didn't make it would be the Jets. So, but the division winners right now, the Ravens still have a chance to win theirs. The Jets have no shot of winning the AFC East, and they have no chance of making the playoffs right now, unless they, figure things out. But even then, I don't know. 10-7 is going to be enough if they ran the table. But yeah, right now, I think the Chargers are in the driver's seat to make the playoffs as a wild card team. That last wild card spot, though, in the AFC is going to be interesting. So we'll see. And then in the NFC looks a lot better for me, because right now I got the Lions. They're playing well. They got a division title, another division title in their sights. They are 8-1. You got the Eagles at 7-2. Right now, they're leading the NFC East, which I had them winning it, but we'll see what happens on Thursday. Big game there between the Eagles and the Commanders. Falcons are in first place. I had them winning the division. The Cardinals, I did not. I think I had them finishing in last place. So I need the 49ers to pass them, which I think they will. So then I'd have all the division winners right, unless the Eagles do lose on Thursday, which is definitely possible. So yeah, you got the Lions at the 1, the Eagles at the 2, Falcons at the 3, Cardinals at the 4, Vikings at the 5. Ugly game that they won on Sunday. They just kicked field goals against the Jaguars, who did not have Trevor Lawrence in that game. Sam Darnold has been struggling, so hopefully he figures things out. Commanders are the 6th seed right now. So if they win, they jump up to the 2. And then you got the Packers as the 7. But, right now you got the Niners, who are a game and a half back. I think that they're still going to win the division. I think now they got everybody back on offense, I think they're going to go on a run. I've been saying that, and they're going to win this division. And then you got the Bears at 4-5, the Rams at 4-5, the Seahawks at 4-5, the Buccaneers at 4-6. I just feel bad for the Bucs. If they didn't have all these injuries, they would be in a much better position. But that's just where they are right now. And they do have. They're on a bye this week, but they do have a lot of winnable games coming out of the bye. So maybe they could go on a run, and they get Mike Evans back, so that would be huge. Yeah, it's just unfortunate what they're going through, but. Yeah, right now the Packers, they got the last wild card spot. I still got the Packers making the playoffs. I still believe that. I think Jordan Love has to play better, of course. But I think they should make it. The Vikings are 7-2. They've been struggling a little bit. But, they've won their last 2 games, even with, them struggling offensively. And you got the Titans and the Bears coming up on the schedule, which I think you should win those 2 games. That gets you to 9-2. They're in a good spot. They're not in danger of anything right now, but you hope that Sam Darnold starts to play better. I think the Commanders are going to make the playoffs. I'm disrespecting the Cardinals, but like I said, I think the Niners are going to overtake them for the division. And the Falcons are in the driver's seat for the NFC South. I think the Eagles, they're going to make the playoffs, whether it's, the division or a wild card. I mean, I had them making the playoffs this year. So the NFC does look good right now. Because I think if the Niners win and the Cardinals lose, that's going to look even better. The Rams, with that loss to the Dolphins, that was tough. They can get back on track, hopefully, taking on the Patriots. But they do got tough games coming up. So, and it did concern me a little bit. And they got guys back on the offensive line. And it's just, the offensive line struggled to protect Matthew Stafford. So, hopefully, they bounce back and, they can go on a run and maybe make the playoffs somehow. But it's going to be tough. I mean, for these NFC West teams, it could be they have to win the division to make it. And I see the Niners winning it. So, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, I mean, it's tough for me to say, like the Bears, I don't think are going to make the playoffs. I didn't have them making the playoffs. The Seahawks, I don't think will make it. The Bucs, I didn't have them in the playoffs either. But maybe, with the light part of their schedule, they can win some games and get themselves back in it. I mean, I'm not going to give up on the Rams. They're still going to win games with their guys back healthy on offense. But it's just tough because you got, a 7-2 team, a 7-3 team, and a 6-3 team controlling the wild card spots. So it's going to be tough for those teams that are 4-5 to surpass them unless those teams lose games and you get help. So we'll see. But look, I think regardless, I think when we get to the postseason, I think the playoffs will once again be good. And I'm hoping that my Super Bowl prediction ends up being right. There were plenty of things I was wrong about this year, but my Super Bowl prediction right now looks really good. So we're hoping that we get to that. I know a lot of people are rooting for the Chiefs to lose, and that's fine. I have them winning the whole thing and three-peating against the Lions. But look, if the Lions make it and win it, I don't care. I would be very happy about that outcome as well because I think they deserve it. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the playoff picture. What teams that are sitting outside of a playoff spot do you think will make a run and end up making it? Do you see everything pretty much staying the same with who's leading the divisions right now? I mean, things are going to change because, right now you got the Steelers in first place. They're playing the Ravens. Something can happen there. Commanders are playing the Eagles this week. Something can happen there. A lot can change in a week. And speaking of that, things that change, my power rankings are up next. I will rank my top 5 teams after week 10. So that is what will take us to the end of the show. So with that being said, stick around for one final time, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about my power rankings, my top 5 teams after Week 10. And I did talk about how the 5 spot is going to be a revolving door basically for the rest of the year. It was very tough to figure out who I would put at 5. And you might not necessarily like who I put at 5. Now, it's really a team that just kind of has gone down each week, but it's still in the top 5. So I got the Minnesota Vikings at 5. I know that Sam Darnold has really struggled. He struggled again on Sunday. I mean, 4 field goals. They couldn't score an offensive touchdown. And you would think that getting TJ Hawkinson back and Jordan Addison's back, you would think that this team would continue to roll offensively. But, it's been a struggle for Darnold the last couple of weeks. It was not, like I said, it was not good on Sunday. He had 3 interceptions, but they still got the win. He was not great the week before against he threw 2 picks. He did put together a respectable performance if you can ignore the 2 picks. But, yeah, he was not good. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns against the Jaguars. But they're 7-2. They ran the ball for 169 yards. Aaron Jones got banged up in this game. Cam Akers also had 38 yards on the ground. Aaron Jones had 88 yards on the ground. TJ Hawkinson was their leading receiver. He had 72 yards receiving. Justin Jefferson only 5 for 48. Jordan Addison 2 for 25. But when this offense is clicking, this is one of the best offenses in the league when you just look at the playmakers across the board. And they also have a very good defense. And the defense, continues to play well and force turnovers. So, look, I still think this is a very good team. It was very hard to decide who would get the spot because it was between them, the Commanders, and the Steelers. And I didn't know what to do. So I kind of just kept the Vikings in the top 5. But offensively, after this game against Jacksonville, that was not a pretty sight. Even though I really didn't watch the highlights of it, but they only won 12-7 against a team that's not going anywhere. So I think they'll figure it out. But Sam Darnold, between the beginning of the year to now, he's kind of regressed back to the mean. But we'll see, if he could bounce back. And look, the Vikings are 7-2. They're in a great spot. So, they still got a chance at the division. They're most likely going to make the playoffs. But Sam Darnold's going to have to play better. So, but I still got them at 5 with the Commanders and the Steelers right behind them. So, then at 4, I have the Buffalo Bills. So, I know I did talk about, the opponents that they have beaten on this 5-game winning streak and how, maybe there's people that aren't that impressed. But Josh Allen's playing really well. The defense forced turnovers against the Colts. And, they're 8-2. You got to give them the respect that they deserve. And I said, this stretch of games that they got coming up is really going to show me what they're made of. Earlier in the season we saw, against the Ravens and the Texans, they got exposed a little bit. But, now I think they're a better team now than they were then because, they did add Amari Cooper, who hasn't played in a couple of weeks. So hopefully they get him back against the Chiefs. That would be a huge boost. And, Khalil Shakir, he's been good for them. James Cook has been good for them. And like I said, the defense is, creating turnovers. They're getting the ball. So you gotta like that. And Josh Allen is not putting the ball in harm's way. Now, he did throw a couple of picks against the Colts, but the whole season he really has been good at limiting the turnovers. He didn't have his first interception until they played the Seahawks a few weeks back. So I got them at 4. And, if they beat the Chiefs, that really would show me something and probably show a lot of you something. So we'll see. Then at 3, I got the Ravens. Their offense has been unbelievable this year. especially with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. They got Mark Andrews going on Thursday. He had a touchdown. I think he had a couple of touchdowns, actually. Zay Flowers has been good for them this year. The one knock on them, I think, is really their pass defense. But other than that, I mean, this team can put up points with anybody. And, I'm hoping we get that rematch with the Chiefs in the playoffs because I think that maybe could go a little bit different. But then again, it could be more of the same. Like I said, their offense has been elite. Lamar Jackson, I think, right now is the front runner for MVP. Josh Allen's up there. Joe Burrow's up there. Although I think Joe Burrow, he could be maybe getting a comeback player of the year. I think that's something that is more for him than MVP. I think if the Bengals were, in first place, I think, he'd be up there as well. I mean, he still is up there, but he would have a better case. But because he's 4-6 right now, I don't think that's going to happen. Lamar Jackson, I think, right now is the MVP. And I think that Derrick Henry could win Offensive Player of the Year. He's been unbelievable. He has scored a touchdown in basically every game. And, let's see if he gets to 2,000 yards. We still got a lot of time left. He could definitely get 2,000 yards. It's possible. So we'll see what happens, but they continue to roll. But I actually did make some changes. So at number 2, I actually had the Kansas City Chiefs. They, offensively, they're not clicking. It's going to happen, probably in the playoffs. But, it's just, they put up 16 points. Although I will say the Mahomes to Kelsey connection has been good in recent weeks. And I knew that was a matter of time before that would get going. Especially with some of the injuries, like losing Rashid Rice. I think now it's like, okay, we gotta step up our game and get you the ball more. And then adding DeAndre Hopkins, he's been good these last couple of games. I think he only had like 70 yards receiving, but he didn't have any touchdowns. A couple weeks ago, he had the 2 touchdowns against the Bucks. But this team is still really good, and they still offensively haven't played their best football yet. They're going to get Juju Smith-Schuster back at some point. They're going to get Isaiah Pacheco back, and I think this will help this team out. But Mahomes has had a down year, and I'm curious to see how it's going to look in the playoffs, because I think once they get to the playoffs, it's going to be different. They're going to look like the Chiefs that we're accustomed to seeing. But there was a play, he missed Worthy on a deep pass. That connection is still a work in progress. But look, even with them struggling, I mean, like this game against the Bills, like, what do we think the score is going to be? Do we think the Bills are going to wipe the floor with them? I don't think so. This game's going to be close. The Chiefs are going to step up their game, I feel like. Now, I'm not going to say who I have winning that game yet. I said I think the Bills can win. I'm not going to give you a pick until Friday. But this is still, they're undefeated. With all the struggles that they have had, they are still undefeated. And I still think at some point they will lose. But right now they're 9-0. But I actually did knock them down a spot, because I put the Lions at 1. I put them at 1 because they did not play well on Sunday. They did not play their best game. And you could say that about the Chiefs too. Like the Chiefs, plenty of times this year, have not played their best game, but they still found a way to win. But the Lions, the fact that Jared Goff had 5 interceptions in this game, and not all of them were his fault. One of them was towards the end of the first half. And they mounted a comeback like they did. They were down 23-6. It looked like that game was over. And it was a road game. And they came back and they shut out the Texans in the second half. That was very impressive. And I have to put them at 1 for this week because of that. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to stay like that, but I think they deserve to at least be number 1. Because the other thing, too, is the Chiefs should have lost. That was a 35-yard field goal. Will Lutz is going to make that, and they're going to suffer their first loss. But they didn't. They ended up blocking it. But I got to put the Lions at 1 this week just because of how that game unfolded on Sunday against the Texans. They were down and they came back despite not playing their good game. I mean, the Chiefs, they haven't been down like that. I mean, they were down by 11, and they shut out the Broncos in the second half and came back. But I think, it was tougher for the Lions. I mean, you're down 23-6, and your quarterback was turning the ball over constantly. So I got them at 1 for this week. So to kind of go through it again, got the Vikings still in the top 5. I got the Bills at 4, Ravens at 3, Chiefs at 2, and then the Lions at 1. The top 3 I don't think is ever going to change. Like in terms of the teams that occupy the 3 spots, I think the order might just change. But I had the Lions at 1 this week. I don't care. I think they deserve it. But again, could change next week. So that is pretty much it for the show for today. Well, let me know what you guys think about the power rankings. What will your top 5 be? Appreciate you guys tuning in today. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Give the other show some love, like I always say. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Look out for my shorts that come out later today, as well as I'll have the segments for the show reposted in case you missed anything. You want to rewatch a segment, you don't have to go through the whole live stream. The segments will be there as well. But yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in, and that's basically it. So as always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the